be the destroyer of this world. Or you can be its savior.
Now that we're on the topic of DC superheroes and Supermen and all them other things, we can go ahead and get into my review for Black Adam, a movie that, you know, so many people around the world have already seen. And, you know, seemingly it looked like it was going to be another big flop, at least a critical flop for Warner Brothers or Warner Brothers Discovery or Discovery Bros, whatever they're calling themselves now. But then all these, you know, people in the audience, they've already seen it and they're all loving it, saying it's the greatest superhero film ever made, saying it's so good. You know, I had, you know, my reservations about this movie, which I'll get into more detail in just a bit. But for those who don't know, you know, the general premise of this film, because Black Adam, it's like, yeah, he's known among, obviously, people who read comic books and nerds and geeks, you know, of all kinds. But to the mainstream, a lot of people don't know who Black Adam is. And kind of give a general premise, general description of the movie. It focuses on the character of Teth Adam, who's an ancient Kahndaqian, I guess, you know, this fictitious country in DC. He's bestowed with these incredible powers from the god chef, from this wizard council. And after, you know, using these powers for vengeance and for evil things, he's in prison for 5,000 years. Gets woken up, chat, thinking that he's someone else. And now he has to fight against the heroes and the villains of the modern world, chat. You know, members of the Justice Society and some red guy, you know, and that's the premise. And The Rock plays him. Chat. That's pretty much all you need to know. Listen, to kind of just jump into my overall thoughts already. Let's wind the clocks back a little bit. You know, the development of this film has been, you know, murky and troubled to say the least. Like, this was originally announced, I want to say, like, all the way back in, like, 2006, 2007, like, officially announced that they were going to do a Black Adam movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. This was before, just to put that in perspective, this was before The Dark Knight, all right? The second chapter in Nolan's Batman trilogy, or even before Iron Man, the start of the MCU even came out. And because of that, it feels like a superhero of a bygone era. You know, although it's set in the DCU, it feels like a superhero film of the late 90s and early 2000s with the aesthetics and sensibilities of Zack Snyder's films, specifically his DC films like Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and Zack Snyder's Justice League. You know, although the movie has like this unrelenting spectacle and action scene after action scene after action scene, although most of, in my opinion, of varying qualities. There are some which are like, oh, that was fun. Other ones are like, ugh, you need to render this more. You know, its story, its characters, and its overall messages suffered tremendously over the course of this 2-hour running time. You know, Black Adam, who is this, 5,000-year-old, relatively charmless anti-hero, he spends most of the movie just kind of glowering and saying vaguely edgy things in an attempt at humor. I really just didn't care for it. It's surprisingly, The Rock is, people have been saying, like, okay, he's not the strongest actor. The Rock is very much The Rock in most things. Or Dwayne Johnson, whatever you want to call him, you know what I'm talking about. He's pretty much playing himself. I mean, sometimes there'll be exceptions like Pain and Gain where he's like, oh, wow, you're actually pushing yourself. You're doing something a little different. And maybe you can pick up a few other films, This is, I guess, different for him, but to me, his performance is just so flat throughout most of the movie. It's just so charmless. Like, I was like, well, at least, even though Black Adam's not supposed to be really charming, maybe he'll have some of that. It's like, no. And they go back, and the thing is, they go back and forth. They're never going to really have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson be a bad guy, be a true villain. Black Adam, he does some horrific things in the movie, but even then they're like, well, that guy deserved it. That guy really deserved it. Thankfully, all the horrible things that he's doing are to even worse and horrible people. So they're like, all right, they're being very wishy-washy with the whole, is he a hero or is he a villain? It's like, he's a hero. Anti-hero maybe, but barely an anti-hero. I don't think the supporting cast helps that much. They don't really help the movie itself. Most of the JSA, which is just weird that they established the Justice Society of America. It's like, oh yeah, we have Hawkman and we have Cyclone, we have Dr. Fate. And I'm like, when were any of these characters introduced? This is kind of weird to me, especially because, you know, how the DCU starts. It's like, again, just because, I mean, the reason why is that they just had no plan. Where Superman, Kal-El, Clark Kent, like, he was supposed to be, like, the first hero, like, to ever exist. And like, people were going like, oh, like, what if, you know, the whole, I think Zack Snyder's pitch was, okay, what if Superman existed in the real world? What would that be like? And that's how they kind of, he's presented in the movie. But then it's like, well, you have these other heroes that seemingly have been around for like a long time too. But again, that's just because they had no plan going for it. But yeah, they introduced the JSA, and I like the JSA. I grew up with the JSA. Read the comics. Seeing them pop up in all the animated stuff. Love that, of course. The thing is, it's just that most of the JSA, despite looking cool, and they look cool, Chad, there's a lot of cool looking, most of the time, well, some of the time, cool looking things in this movie. But the JSA feels incredibly just one note. And also just kind of derivative of the heroes that we've seen before. Like Hawkman, and people have made the comparison. He's very much like the Falcon. But I'm like, that's fine. You can have these. I mean, that's been going back and forth for decades, Chad. Marvel steals from DC, DC steals from Marvel, and I'm like, that's how it goes. I'm like, okay, I can forgive that. That's fine. But as long as you kind of give these, this has been my biggest fucking problem. As long as you give these characters personality, okay, they feel kind of different from each other. And this movie, it makes the mistake of not really giving much for these characters to do. Like Hawkman, he's just like, I'm a hero. And they're like, what makes you a hero? Well, I don't kill people. I'm like, all right. That's it, but that's all that defines him. He's just not very interesting. He's like, I don't like Black Adam because he kills people. And that's it. That's his entire arc in the movie. And, you know, that changes over the course of the film. You have Cyclone, who gets little to do or say. She's basically Storm in the movie. Everyone's been saying she's Storm from the X-Men. They take a lot. I have to say, aesthetically, they steal a lot from the X-Men films. Because I don't remember the JSA having the Blackbird. I don't remember them having this mansion and the basketball course or whatever, and then up comes this jet. I'm like, huh. It's almost as if this movie was looking at things from a certain time period from the early 2000s of superhero films and are just wearing its influence on its sleeve. Huh. You have Adam Smasher. I thought Adam Smasher is one of the worst characters in the movie. I mean, yeah, people have been saying, like, he has the powers of Ant-Man, but he looks like Deadpool. He was supposed to be the funny member of the group, like the inexperienced funny member of the group, like your Spider-Man or your Ant-Man character, you know, or your Deadpool. He's like, I'm supposed to say things, I'm awkward, I don't really know what I'm doing. Everything that they have him say, I'm just like, just stop talking. I mean, the writing for him was terrible. The only really character in the movie, you know, both in the movie itself and in the JSA, who I thought like had any personality, who actually felt like, you know, they had something to say, and they were fun, and I liked their back and forth of other people, including Black Adam, and it's just everyone's been saying this across the board. Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate is legitimately great in the film. If anything, it's just like, I wish we got a Dr. Fate movie, because he's great in the role. Really loved him when he's in the suit and out of the suit. He just feels like a thoroughly well-written character, and he looks like he's actually having fun in the role. You know, whether he was or not, I can't tell, but hey, he fucking does a great job, and I really liked him in the movie. I would want more things with him, but we'll see what happens in the future. But he great. He's the best thing about the movie is he gets some of the best action scenes. He has charm coming out of his ass, chat. And this is what this movie needed, charm, because it had a profound lack of it. Yeah, at the end of the day, like I said, I just rather have a Dr. Fate movie. You have some other characters who are not really superheroes in the film, other supporting characters, and we spent a lot of time with them. You have, and the comparison I make, because I was watching this, it just feels, these two characters just feel like these characters from this big sci-fi action franchises from decades ago. But you have this Sarah Connor and like John Connor-esque characters in the movie. You have this kind of would-be revolutionary Adriana and her son, Amon. You know, she's serviceable in the film. She's pissed off because she lives in Kahndaq, and Kahndaq is, being repressed and exploited by Western powers, which is one of the more interesting things in the movie. They don't capitalize on that. It's kind of like just window dressing. And she's fine. She's okay. But her son is excruciating to watch, and his interactions with Black Adam, which are very John Connor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator-esque, it's they give him some of the worst dialogue in the film. And just like, hey, throwing out catchphrases and movie references and pop culture, all that pop culture bullshit that you all hate. We always say, chat, just plagues movies. He's the character that is reserved for that. It's both. It's bad acting and it's bad dialogue. I just feel like nothing that came out of his mouth felt earnest. It just felt like studio notes, or it felt like, let's have the kids say this. Let's have the kids say that. I'm just like, oh my God, just get this out of here. Or give him a connection to somebody else. And that relationship never worked for me. Never worked for me. Oh, Jesus. So, all the trailers, by the way, all the trailers and the marketing for the movie, I feel like have not been good. They either felt like they were just constantly referencing other superhero films like Iron Man. I was like, wow, there's just a lot of Iron Man in this movie. And there is. Just the look of it too. But it just felt so generic and kind of blasé and boring. I think that's also why The Rock kind of started coming out and just literally just started spoiling the movie at every press junket he was at, every interview he had, just trying to hype up the film, for obviously the big stinger at the end, which now is just, everyone knew what the stinger was before, a month before the movie came out, 3 weeks before the movie came out. That's kind of weird to me. But yeah, one of the things about the film, people were going like, wait, who's the villain? Who's the antagonist? Is the JSA the antagonist? Is that what's going on? Is Amanda Waller, who I'm very confused about why she's in this movie. There's this whole thing with her being control of the JSA. I guess it's not in the marketing. I don't think it's a spoiler, but it kind of comes out and I was like, why is she in control of the JSA? It's connected to something that the movie I think is trying to say, but they fail. But I was like, okay, who's the villain? And the villain and the film's third act are a complete joke. The villain is he's connected to something in the beginning of the film. He's just Red Steppenwolf. He's Red Steppenwolf, Shabak or ShamWow. I'm gonna call him ShamWow for the sake of convenience, chat. He's just Satan. He's just the devil. And when they introduce him, which just feels, it's just so exposition heavy. You need this crown. You need to get this crown, which is made from this element, which is clearly vibranium or adamantium. They call it something else. What's it, turnium or something? And you put the crown on your head, and when you die, you come back as Satan. There you go. And then he leads an army of skellies, of skeletons. Like, there's a lot of CGI in this movie, and it goes back and forth. Sometimes it looks pretty good, and sometimes it's like, well, it's a little iffy, but whatever. The third act, when they introduce the skellies, the skeletons, terrible. Oh my God, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And it just felt like, we gotta give something for the Kahndakians to do. Have them fight against, like, they're gonna rise up and they're gonna fight the Skellies. And I'm just like, okay. But yeah, he's just there to say evil things and monologue. And again, it's just another big, an even worse person to justify what Black Adam has been doing in the movie by killing everybody. That's all it is. He's nothing. He's one and done. You're never gonna see him again. And for good reason, because he fucking sucks. The other thing that kind of bothers me about the movie is that the film's message is lost. So they kind of go on this, they kind of go into American interventionalism, or excuse me, not intervention, interventionism, and with the JSA, because it's like, oh, the JSA are only intervening in Kahndaq because that's what the United States government and Amanda Waller wants. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. But that's dropped in the film. They completely fucking forget about that. And I was like, that would have been interesting. Like, okay, so it's kind of comparable to like the Middle East, where you had these Western nations exploring these countries for their resources and power and oil or whatever they might be. In this case, I guess it's Black Adam and the Eternium or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, let's go. And then the people, they forget about that. They completely forget about that. And I was like, that would have been interesting. That would have been bold. That would have been a bold and brave choice. But they're like, you don't care about the socio-political aspects of the DC universe. Let's just have Black Adam punch a red guy. Come on. Also, I just don't like the message that all heroes should kill because it's a badass and cool thing to do. A lot of that is coming from the relationship between Black Adam and the kid Amon. It just feels to me like a very nihilistic edgelord approach, to that kind of relationship, to these kind of characters, and it just smelled and stunk like the Zack Snyder films with that kind of messaging. I was like, I did not like that. I covered all the characters. Dwayne Johnson, I feel like he's okay in the movie as Black. Everyone's raving about his performance. Like, I don't really get it personally. I'm just like, sure. They don't even call him Black Adam, really. They call him Teth Adam. That's his original name. And then he takes on the name Black Adam towards the end. But he's there. He's fine. He's okay. It's just, there's just nothing really to him, honestly. I know that he wants revenge and justice, whatever you want to call it, but it's like, whatever. I understand why he's doing what he's doing, but it's like, all right, I don't have to kill that many people, but all right, whatever. Aldis Hodge as Hawkman, super one note, nothing to him. Adam, like I said, Noah Centineo, is that how you say his name? Adam Smasher, wasted, given some awful dialogue. Adriana, she's serviceable, she's fine. She's Sarah Connor in the movie, kind of. And then you have the Sabic, or whatever his name was, ShamWow, terrible. Cyclone, I thought she was fine. She just didn't really get to do anything. She was kind of just there. I'm gonna show off my powers. Okay, that's it. Amon, the kid. I'm sorry, but that Bodhi Sabongui, I can't say his name. I'm sorry, can't say his name. Terrible. Probably the worst character in the movie. The only one I like, Chad. The only one I'm like that probably kind of prevents me from giving this. I don't know. I'm kind of teetering on the edge here. But Pierce Brosnan as Kent Nelson, I thought, wow, this is a great adaptation of Dr. Fate. You did such a great job in terms of his personality, giving him charm, making him actually well-rounded and fun to be around, Chad. And he's fucking cool, and his powers are cool. People say, like, he's like Doctor Strange. Like, sure. Dr. Fate, Doctor Strange. It's back and forth. But it works. He really worked in the movie for me. But when it comes right down to it, they're saying that this is going to be the start. This is going to be the start of the new trajectory for DC films. And I'm like, I fucking hope not, because this feels like such an old movie. It feels so dated in its sensibilities and in its characterization of these people. It's like it feels like a superhero film that just went, who cares? Just make sure they, kind of look like the characters, whatever. But they don't need to have any depth. They don't need to have like an arc, and that's why it feels like a 90s superhero film. That's why it feels like an early 2000s superhero film, because of what, probably they had those sensibilities. I don't know how long the script's been reworked, or did they even change it? I'm not sure, but it just feels like that. But it has, the thing that is modern about it is that it feels like a Zack Snyder DC movie. And for those that want that, that's what you're going to get. That's what it is through and through. And I found it thoroughly disappointing. I feel like at the time, like on the DT scale, I would have given this like a low rental because of Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. And he's very good. He's very good. He's the best thing about the movie. But I don't know. Everything. This is about Black Adam. It's about his supporting characters, and it's like, none of them really work for me. None of them at all. And it just kind of amounted to a disappointing action smash slog, which is disappointing, which is sad. Because I guess you can kind of look at this as the next chapter in the Shazam saga. Because this, Black Adam is one of the villains of Shazam. And I always would have made more sense to me if Shazam and Black Adam fight each other. This whole stuff with Superman doesn't make any sense to me. I was like, I guess they fought each other in the past, and there was like a DC animated film where they fought, but Shazam was involved with all that, obviously. So I don't know. I thought this was thoroughly disappointing, and it makes me very concerned if this is going to be the type of DC films we're going to be getting in the future. How this ends, again, I'm just confused. Like, everyone knows at this point. Okay, this is a little spoiler, chat. It's already been stated what the stinger is, but here you go. The end credit stinger for the movie involves Amanda Waller confronting Black Adam via a PowerPoint presentation, hologram or whatever. And somehow she has teamed up, and I'm very confused by this. She has, and Martin told me yesterday, but I want to see how it works. I'm like, okay, let's see the context, and it still doesn't make any fucking sense. She is somehow teamed up with Superman. Superman's like, we need to talk. And I was like, oh, here we go. So and it's Henry Cavill. He's in the suit. He's there. And I'm just like, why? What's going to happen with this? Are they going to fight each other? Are they going to do very weird to me, a Superman versus Black Adam movie? It's like, shouldn't it be fucking Shazam versus Black Adam? Or maybe it's the three of them together? Maybe it's the three of them. I'm like, okay. Because they did a short like that. They did like a 23-minute or 22-minute special years ago, which was actually quite fun. I was like, okay, they do that, but I don't know. Everyone's like talking about, Superman versus Black Adam, but everyone's forgetting about Shazam. I'm just confused. That doesn't make any fucking sense. It's another we need to talk scene, which they probably in the context of the DCU will not make any sense. And both DC and Marvel have done this. They have end credit stingers that lead to nothing or just like don't really make any sense in terms of the future films at all. And this definitely feels like one of them. It just kind of felt to me like, all right, listen, Henry Cavill's back as Superman, so there you go. All right, see you in 5 years, maybe when they fight each other, or maybe 6 or 7, if they ever do. They might never fight it. So, yeah, this is a very disappointing movie. Is this the last? No, thankfully. Oh, thank God. Thankfully, this is not the last big superhero film of the year. We still have Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Hoping for the best for that one. This is the kind of movie that gives you, in my opinion, superhero fatigue. That's why I'm kind of a surprise at a lot of like super positive reactions for this film, because I don't really understand as to why. But that's just how I feel, Chad. So yeah, if I would give this a rating on the double toasted DT scale, this is the very definition of a some old bullshit. I was very thoroughly disappointed in this. Just sloppily written, terrible characters, and just a really bad story. Some old bullshit, Chad. That's how I feel. I know that people feel differently about Black Adam and the other members of the film's cast, but what do you guys feel about the movie? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Let me know in the comments below. Curious.